That's not up for my judgment. You know, I was hoping he would let it go, but of course, you know, he's a ref. It's a big game, and it was a hold, so they called it.
It's not my job to make the call. You know, those guys got to do that in split-second scenarios, and so you know that's what he saw, and he called it. I know it always appears to be that it's one call that makes the. It's not what it is, right? It's not what it is. There's so many plays that contribute to the end result of the game, and today they were better than we were.
All right, so this has led to a good deal of disagreement on our show today. We've been bringing in RC, of course, is with us all morning long from Arizona, and Chris Canty gets up with us earlier this morning. We've had Bart Scott here. We've had Rob Ninkovich here. CC, we've not yet heard from you. It's an enormous call in an enormous spot in the game. What did you think of it?
I hated the call, Greeny, but it was the right call by the officials. And listen, no sports fan wants the game to be decided by a penalty by the officials. We didn't come to watch the zebras. We came to watch the players. And since the officials have been letting it go, letting guys play all night long, you were surprised that they threw the laundry on that particular play. But this play is not all that dissimilar from what we saw in the AFC Championship game, where an unnecessary roughness call on Joseph Asai ultimately decided the outcome, and the Kansas City Chiefs kicked the field goal for the win. This is the same type of situation, and if I'm not going to criticize the refs in that scenario, I'm not going to be hypocritical and criticize them in the Super Bowl.
Okay, fair enough. So RC, again, for those who were just joining us, you played in the defensive secondary for years, and your position is it was a good call. It was a no doubt call.
Yeah, it was the right call. And listen, unlike Bobby Orr, in no way did James Bradbury revolutionize playing defense in this moment, right? You think about that play and where you are in that space. It's so difficult for James Bradbury because he's anticipating he's going to get across her. So he's trying to beat Juju across the field. And your natural instinct in that moment is not that there are less than 2 minutes left. Is that I would do this or I would hold him on this play, in this position, every single time. And so now if you're the official, you're also working from that vantage point as well. You're working from the vantage point of these are my two guys to watch, and in watching him, this is a hold. Not only did he hold him the first time on the whip, which maybe you could have let go because it was so close to the line of scrimmage, he holds him again when he adjusts the route to get upfield. And so when you think about this, I get why you would be disappointed or why Gilly the Kid and Wallow are upset because now they can't go on their show and absolutely cut the fool because the Philadelphia Eagles lost. But they lost because they didn't make enough plays. They lost because they put themselves in that position. And James Bradbury, in anticipating something, got something else. And the official made the right call. And we could talk till we're blue in the face about the calls they let go all day. That doesn't mean you get to let that one go. It's like, you know what? I've been robbing and stealing from people my whole life. Now I can't change. Let me rob and steal forever, even though I've been saved. That ain't how it works. At some point, you got to do the right thing, and it's the right thing.
Yeah, RC just gave y'all $1 million worth of game right there on that whole rundown about when they're going to call when they're gonna, oh yeah, that was for you. When they're going to call holding and when they're not going to call holding. I don't know if you got that or not, Dan, but it doesn't matter. The point is, in that
part
situation,
of Culture Wednesday.
in that situation, they were doing those whip routes and they were killing the Eagles.
Yes.
And they were scoring touchdowns on him. And their answer to that was to put him in press. When you're in press like that, you don't have much room to work with.
Right.
Once he puts his eyes in the backfield, he's dead because he's assuming that he's cutting off the route. So, I mean, especially when the DB himself says he did it, it's hard for us to make an argument that they shouldn't make it.
You know what's fascinating to me, Dan, before I give it to you, and Ninko made this point, I wanted to make it while we were seeing that part of the video. He said that he genuinely believes one of the reasons the call is made is that Bradbury is wearing white sleeves, and he's playing against a player wearing a white jersey, and he's wearing dark gloves. And he actually said he should be wearing white gloves, and that it is less noticeable. You notice that a lot of the other players...
Leave it to the Patriots to learn how to cheat better. Whoa!
I mean, it is interesting that even down to that little kind of detail.
All right.
Here's the reason I enjoyed RC's analogy, but I don't agree with it. Because... to me, the officials in all sports set a tone throughout a game, this is what we're going to call tonight. We're going to let this kind of stuff go, and we're going to make this kind of call here. It's not about whether we've been robbing and stealing all of our lives. It's about tonight we're not calling this stuff. Like we're letting it go, and then in that
you wanted to be the purge, huh? You just want the purge?
It was the only time they called that all night long.
All right, so after being on for an hour now, I think two things come to mind. One, there is real disappointment on my end, and that's fair. That's not fair. Excuse me. Like I sit here and I think. It's the morning after the Super Bowl, and all I really want to do is talk about Jalen Hurts' incredible performance and see how that game ended if he got the ball back down. Or, like, we got to sit in how great Patrick Mahomes is. We're not sitting in that enough, on and off the field. And I think the second part is this, and I'll speak directly to RC and Dom and Chris on this one. I'm hearing you guys say that, like, obvious holdings happen on that play, two obvious moments, right? I can't get over the fact that there is no reaction by Juju Smith-Schuster. I was in the stadiums, as was RC, and I watched the sideline. There's no reaction. So for like when I look in the earlier part of the game, there's a clip early part in the game, and watch Juju on this play. Like there's an obvious animated reaction of I got held. There's a flag here. PI holds something.
And they don't throw it.
And they don't throw the flag. And then later in the game, in the moment when you guys say there's two times, Dan, when the flag is thrown, there's nothing from him. That's what I can't get past.
Ball's not thrown there. Like, that's another thing is, like, he's running the rest of the play. The ball is thrown at the point of the hold there. The ball is not thrown at the point of the hold there.
But don't you think if he feels both of those legitimate tugs and or holds, that he's going to go in that moment on third down and he knows it's such a huge deal, he's going to go, I can't get one call today?
It is a terrible shame that this game that had so many classic components to it winds up in so many ways being decided by that, because we all know everyone can do math and everyone can see as soon as that call is made, they're going to take three knees, they're going to kick a field goal, and this game is over. And that is just, bruh. Lord, as everyone laughs at the way I read your tweet, I can't even do it with a straight face. All right, RC, with a Super Sunday edition of Explain Your Tweets. There is no better Twitter follow while these games are going on than Ryan Clark. Here we go. The first one. That's two for Patrick. Best ever thus far. Only chasing the GOAT Tom Brady for me at this point. Man won the whole thing with Juju being his biggest threat outside and a defense that got ran through like competitors in a young Andy Reid's punt, pass, and kick tourney. RC, explain that tweet.
First of all, y'all saw Andy Reid in that punt, pass, and kick. Andy Reid was a grown man. He kicked that thing out of the stadium. But think about Patrick Mahomes and where he is right now in his career. We've gone through all of his accolades today. But when you think about who he was coming into the league, no one expected Patrick Mahomes to be this. And since he's been the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, he's been the absolute best in the league. The hardware says it. The film says it. And every time that Patrick Mahomes steps onto the field, we say this: the other team could be better. The other team can be close. But in the end, we believe in Patrick Mahomes more than we believe in anybody. It's like Tiger against the field when we knew what was happening on Saturday in that red shirt, on Sunday in that red shirt.
No question about it. And Mahomes frequently in a red shirt as well, working his way up historically. All right, next tweet. Andy Reid is minding the Eagles in the red zone. RC, explain that tweet.
Man, it was like watching the stinking mentalist. Andy Reid just knew what to do. He comes out and they do the ring around the Rosie huddle at one point. And then after they do the ring around the Rosie, they say, oh, we know what you're going to do. When we put somebody in motion, you're going to try to bump the coverage. When you bump the coverage, we're going to snap it right there, get somebody to the flat. We're not just going to do it one time. We're going to do it two times. And then when you have the numbers in the box, you hand the ball off to Isaiah Pacheco, who every time he runs the football, he's running it like everybody's chasing him, and he don't have no money. It's absolutely phenomenal what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy were doing with that offense.
Now I read that more correctly. Now I see it says mine. Now I see what it actually said. Okay, I get it. All right, one more. Let's give some love to Jalen Hurts. No matter how this ends, there are no longer any questions about Jalen Hurts. Squash all that. He's their guy. RC, explain that tweet.
You know what? I think this one to me was the most simple to explain. You know, if you watched Jalen Hurts' career, you were thinking maybe they were going to put Gardner Minshew in the game at halftime, or maybe he was going to have to go play for another team to finally be respected. Jalen Hurts, coming into this game, the talk was about 2 black quarterbacks starting the game for the first time. The other conversation should have been that it was the MVP and the MVP runner-up, and Jalen Hurts was every bit of that. Everyone talked about what would he be like on the largest scale. How will his injury affect his play? Jalen Hurts was absolutely phenomenal throughout the entire day.